Okay. Welcome everyone to the regular meeting of the Amery Board of Education. We will reconvene in open session. We were in closed session earlier. The first item on the agenda tonight is the Spotlight on Education, the Amery Wrestling State Champions.
Coaches come out there, we'll get you guys on live TV.
There you go.
This is like you're not used to that, huh?
You'd let me be on live,
It will be TV, just label.
you know?
I was talking to Mr. Merkler, we feel pretty safe with having all you guys in here, so I guess I'm gonna run my mouth a little bit tonight. So, congratulations guys, the board wanted to honor you on your team state championship. I know we got a couple individual state championships too. Just a historic year for this group, both individually and as a team. I know we're celebrating the moment with these guys, I'm not gonna lie. They got back on Sunday, and on Monday they were all in the weight room getting after it again. And that's the culture of this program. It's not anything fancy, it's hard work and dedication. And they get after it each and every day. It's a year-round process. So, on behalf of the district, congratulations, fellas.
Comments on the board, you might have to spin around so they could talk to you. They want to see your hair.
Interesting.
Getting ready for next year? Good, good. Hopefully, won't have to have masks then. But you did a great job with having to deal with all the stuff, the restraints that we had on the kids this year. And I'm just extremely proud of you guys, the way you've handled yourselves. Thank you.
Good representation.
And as a longtime Amery sports fan, really, congratulations, guys. That's an awesome achievement. I can't think of the last time, or if ever, we've had a team state champion.
We've got 4. We had 2 cross-country, 1 track. 2001 was the last one, Mr. Gould? And then all these guys, so 20 years.
It's been a little while, so.
Been a while.
Yeah.
You guys have,
Let's not wait that long again.
yeah.
Next year.
We have a banner on order. These guys are worried about their championship rings too. They're working on that. But I know this group wants to, and even our seniors have helped create this culture, but the goal is to hang multiple banners. And these guys have done an awesome job. So just can't thank them enough. And Coach Kelly and Coach Hopkins, Coach Ingham, and Coach Zaire, I mean, these guys, this is a year-round process. It's not just November through February. So can't thank them enough. Coach Kelly gets here early in the morning and stays late at night to make sure everybody gets in here and gets worked out. They usually get about 40 matches a year in, and this year they got about 20. And that's with wrestling at Team State. So, guys, congratulations. We're proud of you. I think Coach Kelly said you all need to return to the weight room now after this meeting.
I will say that I've had 2 kids go through the wrestling program here. I have spent many a days sitting in the bleachers watching wrestling. I watched your final match live stream through Reggie Schleichner. Thank you, Reggie, on Facebook, as a team. And I will tell you that I know how hard it is for one person to go on a mat and be one single guy out there. And it's often looked at as an individual sport. But the way that you guys all pulled together as a team, no matter if you went out on that mat and you won, if you forfeited, if you lost, it was a team sport, and you guys did a phenomenal job supporting each other on that journey, and know that it actually took a whole team to make this happen, regardless of what that outcome was. So really proud of you guys. Good job.
Thank you. It's very exciting.
Awesome, guys. All right, back to the weight room.
Should start every meeting like that, the 1, 2, 3 warriors.
I'm in.
We're in.
Awesome.
I'll call it out. I'll break it down for you.
the next item would be the consent agenda item. So who had the vouchers this month?
Consent agenda items, so I will make a motion that we approve those items.
Second?
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, the consent agenda items are approved. There is one person for community comments, and that is Tara Rose.
So I have been doing a little research for my administrative license, and one of the things I chose to research was the benefits of virtual learning here within the Amery district. So I wrote up a full report. It probably would take me about 15 minutes to go, so I'm going to send it to you guys in email so you can read it or not. I surveyed everybody in the district, 4K through 12, and I just wanted to share some of the highlights because I think some of our parents, I think some of us think that virtual learning was such a lack. And as a teacher, I can tell you it wasn't at all. Was it as rigorous and was it the same as the classroom? Absolutely not. But the values of virtual learning were really wonderful, and I think it made us as a teaching profession, one of the biggest things that teachers said is just how flexible it made them and how creative they had to get, how much technology they had to learn in a time when technology was a part of our everyday lives, but some teachers were maybe a little leery to move to that because it was just easier to keep doing what they were doing. And so many teachers talked about the collaborative nature that came out of it, and I just wanted to share. So I'll share a little bit in the report, but a lot of teachers just highlighted that there were a lot of positives. Of course, we know that kids learn best in the classroom. As a science teacher, I had to punt so much because our curriculum is completely lab-based in chemistry and biology. But one thing that I had never done, I had my chemistry class and we were doing solutions. We were not able to do the labs that we typically do. So I did some research, and I came up with a water contamination project that my students did. They had to identify the 5 main contaminants of water. They read about a water filtration in Bangladesh and how the pH was changed and some different chemistry aspects of solutions. I found and kind of revolved it around a virtual lab that they were able to do to test water from different areas, mountain, agricultural reasons. And then they had a choice in the last portion of this project to choose 3 of 5 things to research. It could have been mercury within water. A lot of them actually chose to look at the water quality of Amery, and then they had to come up with a presentation. And then we spent a class period sharing on that. And I'm not gonna lie, it was probably one of the proudest moments I've ever had as a teacher. And it never would have happened if we weren't virtual. I would have never found this lesson. I would have never done this project. But I had to shift my thinking when we were virtual to, we can't do a lab, we can't do what we normally do. And we as a science department at the high school talked about, well, let's try to relate some of the concept to a more global-minded position. And so it was really fun to see what they came up with. And it was so fun to survey our staff and a lot of our administration as well. That although our kids may not have got through as much material as possible during our virtual time last spring and this fall, and I think you guys obviously are aware of this, but there were so many positives that did come out of it. A lot of resiliency, a lot of creativity, and just learning that collaborative nature, and then just being so grateful for what we were able to do when we can actually be here. And so I just want to thank you guys for the flexibility and your ability to fight for our kids to get back in the classroom, because we do know that is where they learn best. But I just wanted to be able to share with you tonight a little bit about a positive that came out in my room. And then I'll share with you guys kind of the full report of what a lot of teachers had said, so that you're aware and that our parents are aware of how many wonderful things came out of it too. So, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We could move up this Apple River Solar. Move her up because she's a guest.
Okay, we're going to rearrange a few items on the agenda. We're going to next go to the informational items, the Apple River Solar matter.
Kara Heffelbauer is here to present information to you on the Apple River Solar Project, which resides in 2 districts, Amery being one and Clayton being the other. So you're up.
Excellent, thank you. Let's see. Can everyone hear me clearly enough? I want to make sure I'm projecting loud enough for the board and also for the audience. As mentioned, my name is Kara Heffelbauer. I work with National Grid Renewables. We're working on a solar project in your community called Apple River Solar. We are spread across 4 towns. The project got its name from the substation that it's interconnecting to. I always like to start kind of leading into that way because we're not picking favorites with names with regards to some of the towns we're placed in. It was the equipment on the grid that we're interconnecting to. So here on the slide, I put my other colleagues that work with me quite a bit in the state. While I am the majority of the boots on the ground for the project, there may be time to time that anyone in the room could have interactions with the other ones as well. I've been with the company about 6 years. I do a little bit of everything. As a developer, my major role is really just a project manager, overseeing all the different aspects of development and getting a project from conception to construction. So whether that be supporting permitting, stakeholder coordination, meetings like this tonight, a lot of what my job ends up being is a lot of public engagement. So just briefly, we'll take you through a brief introduction to the company that I work for, and then some project specifics, and willing to entertain as many questions until you want to kick me out of here. So we'll dive into it. Next slide. Thank you, Becky. We'll hopping in. So our company actually just underwent a name change. Important to note, we used to be Geronimo Energy. We were Geronimo Energy for almost 2 decades. We started as just a wind development company. We were founded by a farmer, Noel Ron, out of southwestern Minnesota. The short story is he was approached by a wind developer, didn't feel like him and his brother were being treated fairly, didn't like the way the developers were talking to them, and being that he was a man of many other ventures too, he looked at it and was like, you know what, I think I can do this. And then he did, and he put up turbines on their property, and that was the genesis of Geronimo. So flash forward, we started working in solar development as well. Flash forward a few more years, we added an operational arm of our company, and then flash forward to July of 2019. That was when we were acquired by National Grid. National Grid, and if you want to hit the next slide, Becky. These next couple slides are going to touch on National Grid and then what we do as a development company with them. But National Grid is known as a UK utility, and we'll talk a little bit more about them on the next slide. We have developed over 2,800 megawatts of operational wind or solar projects. Most of our bread and butter has been in the Midwest, and that has to do with where we're headquartered, just out of Minneapolis, Minnesota. The majority of our projects now, our mode is to aim to own and operate them. However, some projects still end up getting sold to local utilities. That's just part of the business, and some of it is also just related to how state tariffs are written that make it more challenging for independent power producers to own and operate projects in states. I say that because Wisconsin's one of those. So it's still our goal, but we may end up selling to a local utility this project in the end. So who is National Grid? They are most known as being that UK-based utility. They also operate as a utility out of the northeastern pocket of the United States. We are owned by their unregulated arm, National Grid Ventures, so we do not fall under the same rules and restrictions that a utility do when we're developing projects. And that really is just utilities have to have an additional layer of approval for their projects that come in the state of Wisconsin as the form of a certificate of authority. We also don't have eminent domain like a utility has as well. So overall, our day-to-day hasn't changed much. Our core values, they're still there. We're still farmer friendly. We're still community driven. But what has changed is we have a better competitive landscape with the stronger financial backing of National Grid. All right, it's just a nice picture. So here is an overview. This just helps illustrate what I communicated earlier about our bread and butter really being in that Midwest, but we are expanding nationally and starting to work really coast to coast in other markets, and National Grid has helped enable us to do that, but again, still, I'm biased, and that's just because I've grown up in the Midwest. I like it here the best, and that's where I'm going to keep working. So. Next slide, please. So here are some of the specifics on the project. Overall, we're looking at what is a 100 megawatt solar project. To put that into a relatable scale, 1 megawatt of solar power or generates enough electricity to power about 200 homes annually. So a 100 megawatt project is 20,000 homes, average electrical usage on an annual basis. Also, with respect to sizing, 1 megawatt of solar sits on anywhere from about 5 to 7 acres, give or take setbacks, avoidance areas, and wetlands, avoiding trees, you name it. I have a project right now that we just found a burial ground. Not actively in construction, mind you, but in our development homework phase. So that will definitely be an avoidance area for the project. With a 100 megawatt project, you're looking at an average of about 116 million in capital investment. During the construction period of the project, 150 plus temporary construction jobs. For the operational life of the project, the solar projects really do generally take care of themselves. That's only about 3 full-time. Over the course of 25 years, approximately 10 million in utility shared revenue payments to be shared amongst the towns. Then I'm going to keep talking through this, but I do have a map of showing the project area, so you'll be able to see that. The way that the tax revenue works in the state is it's paid directly to the state and then distributed amongst the county and the towns based on a project's geographical location. So the final siting of the facility is going to be directly related to tax revenue for the jurisdictions where the project is located. Irrespective of that, and something unique to National Grid Renewables is we implement what's called either an education fund or community fund. They're used interchangeably, and that is probably the most interesting thing to the board. And that is a $200 per megawatt annual commitment for 20 years. And the way that we have worked it out amongst the district administrators thus far has been 80% to Amery and 20% to Clayton. So that, as mentioned, we're in 2 school districts. The way that it ended up being shared was based on pupils for the January 8th, 2021 enrollment count. And with enrollment count numbers not really fluctuating substantially between the 2 districts, we looked at this as a good metric and measure to keep things fair and evenly allocated for the project. And that is, again, 501c3. It would be implemented and payments would start after the project had started that operation for the first year. And now this is something also that I do want to note. We are committing to it here. We're also committing to it with the towns and the county. One of my pieces that I've been doing is working on what's called joint development agreements with the local communities. So a project this size goes through state permitting. However, the locals are still really engaged in that process. And what the joint development agreement does is outlines a lot of the key components of our state permit, and then adds in additional things that the locals may be interested in or don't feel like they were touched on enough, or there may be a unique situation. For example, with the town of Beaver, we have a road that may only service the project if it is to be built around that, and they're looking to have it temporarily abandoned. So that's something that we can capture in those agreements, and that's what we've also done. And we've inserted the education fund into that agreement too. So it's a fixed revenue for the project, assuming the project does get to that construction phase and then operation. And that financial commitment carries, whether it be us as the owner or a local utility as the owner, because they are also to abide by the same agreements that anything for permits or joint development agreements, anything in the name of Apple River Solar LLC. All right, here's the map. Sorry, I'm doing that fast because I know we're on a tight schedule. So, okay. And the next slide as well, so this just shows the 4 towns. That center crux is where the 4 towns meet. So we have Beaver in the northeast, we have Clayton in the southeast, Lincoln in the southwest, and then Apple River in the northwest. That substation is down in the lower, is this a pointer? Is this one? I don't want to screw anything up. I just won't touch it. So Apple River, the Apple River substation is that blue text in that southwest quadrant. So that is where we're hooking up to. So one of the first things people usually always ask me is like, well, why did you pick here? What happened? Why this spot? And the existing interconnection infrastructure really drives where projects are sited. And in this case, there's a substation there. Through our evaluation, we've determined this area to have capacity to be able to handle a project this size. Then that next step is landowners being interested and wanting to participate in the project. We don't have the eminent domain, so everyone we work with in our project footprints is participating because they believe this is the highest, best use for their land and where they see, they see their land going, whether it just be 20 acres of their 20 acre out of their larger 300 acre operation, or, they're putting in a few hundred acres. All of it varies, but this whole project is a lease as well, which is important to note because it's, it is a long-term lease, it's temporary in nature, so that it isn't meant that the project will be there forever and ever. There is an end, and that is also addressed in the decommissioning with the lease, and it's also addressed via decommissioning with the state permit. And, can we hop to the next slide? I want to show the layout. So our layout as filed with the Public Service Commission, the red area is what we would call the preferred, the blue area is the alternate. The state requires you have a larger area than you actually need to develop the project to allow for siting flexibility through the permitting process and also during the construction process if you were to bump into things that were unknown, unforeseen, and suddenly a portion of your project wasn't usable. So how we've delineated our preferred versus our alternate simply has to do with environmental features. If you pop up and look over there, we're in the northeast quadrant where there's all that black shading. Those are water bodies. It's not as conducive for solar for us to have to go over and cross. We also have a very large tract of woods immediately to the west of the east is the water, and then the west, where it's undeveloped there and no color shading of panels is a block of forest. So that was part of the driving for how we selected our preferred versus alternate of the array. And that is it in a very condensed nutshell. I'm so happy to take any questions anyone may have, and also happy to connect with anyone after this. There are additional follow-up or materials that anyone would like me to provide.
How many acres is this preferred spot, and then also the blue?
Yeah.
The alternate? How many acres is that?
Roughly 800 is the preferred, and about 200 is the alternate, a little give or take. It's right around 1,000 in total.
And so where in the project are you now?
Absolutely, great question. So we are amongst the state permitting process. We submitted our application back in fall of 2020. Prior to that, we did local stakeholder coordination with the towns and the county, and are continuing to do so as it evolves. Our first testimony is due at the end of this month. Our docket number is 9808 CE 100. If you go into the Public Service Commission's website, you can look that up, subscribe, or not subscribe if you don't want to get emails from it, but everything is posted in there. Every map for the project, every report, every study, all of our party hearing dates, and more than you'd ever probably want to read or know, but it's all up there. And the most notable event that will be happening is our public hearing, and that is, I believe, June 23rd. If I'm remembering that correctly, I have one just the week prior that I think is the 14th, but that is virtually. So somewhere between, so everywhere between now and June is really just filing testimonies and rebuttals, and then public hearing happens, and there may be some additional testimonies after that, but we would expect, based on the schedule for the Public Service Commission, to make a decision later this year that would enable the project to start construction at the very soonest, end of 2021 into 2022, but more likely than not, construction would likely be starting in the later part of 2022 and then carrying into 2023.
Any other questions?
So within this preferred area, the actual solar grids are not covering 40 acres or?
That's a great question. So the the arrays themselves, and I skipped this, usually, it's told only 10 minutes, so I really condensed it, but I can do in about 30 minutes my walkthrough of all like the solar components and the construction process. So that got X'd out of it, but the rows themselves are on average 20 feet on the tightest to 40 feet in between each like panel edge to panel edge. So the majority of the project ends up being open space. Open space with our setbacks, open space with those rows, and the panels themselves are pile driven in on I or C-beam channels, so there's no concrete associated with the footings. The access roads where we have wetter soils or whenever we're in a right-of-way, we have to lay gravel, but we try to not lay gravel if we have conducive soils to not do that in other portions of our project. So then we'll just have a mowed down field access. The only concrete footings we have are really associated with our inverters, and those come on precast skids, and there's about, oh gosh, I'm trying to think off the top of my head. If we hop back to you might be able to kind of see them zoomed out on this, to the overall engineering layout. Depending on the size of a project, you can fit anywhere between 3 to 5 megawatts per inverter. So just kind of do the math there. That's about how many inverters you have. They're about 8 by 10 feet skids.
Yeah, yeah.
So, and then the project substation, which in that map, the project substation is planned to be directly east of the existing Apple River substation. But the majority of the project is open space and will be planted with a native grass mix, and then the open space areas between the array edges and then the fence, and then your fences and right-of-ways or fences and property boundaries. Those are a taller seed mix. You want to avoid shading in the panels, so you have the taller mix on the outside, and that's more of that pollinator prairie plantings. When you picture a native prairie, what you would expect on the exterior of the project.
I'm just referring because I've been at the one Darylyn Power has down by Hammond, and they're doing 40-acre grids. And they've got 2 of them. So I'm envisioning that's what you're going to do, is do what, 40-acre grids wherever you can?
Kind of. So as you can kind of see here, the more, I wish every project of mine, and well, I shouldn't say I do, my engineers wish every project of mine was just like a nice like 40-acre box. That is the most efficient from an electrical standpoint. But as soon as you look at the way parcels are shaped, how a landowner wants to participate, if you have a wetland that you're avoiding, if there's a gas line easement bisecting a parcel diagonally, like your layouts start to get really broken up. So we're kind of, as you can see, all of the red, and if you zoomed in super, super close, and I don't even think the quality of this map would illustrate it, but you'd see the breaks between the arrays if you're looking at the electrical engineering plan sets. But basically, another driver for that preferred and alternate is also where are we able to be closest to the existing infrastructure that's siting it for us. And yeah, like I said, my engineers wish everything I gave them was this perfect box. And it never is, though. That's once you involve people, it all becomes different.
Are there federal or state grant dollars associated with the landowners? Do they get a monetary value for this, for their land?
That's a good question. So we pay the landowners privately via the lease agreements. So typical, and without getting into exact specifics, usually most projects that are under a lease, you have what's called a development term, and that's what we're under for this project, where it's a lower annual payment per acre to just have the option to go into that construction and then long-term extended term. And then the extended term are, the more lucrative payments, and usually why someone signs up to participate. But those are paid by us and not funded via grants. And there aren't any, similar to really all energy, there is still some subsidies related to both wind and solar. Solar is what's called a tax credit, and that is phasing out, and I am certainly not the financial model expert and don't ever want to be when I look at those things. It's terrifying. I'm horrible at Excel, full disclosure. But basically what ends up happening right now is if you are in construction by X year, you're able to claim X amount on your taxes when the project is then operational. So it's not forever, not in perpetuity, and the tax financing itself, credit financing is phasing out. But that is in place for solar projects at this time.
So is any of this, I guess, what's the partnership you see with the school district?
Yes, thank you for asking. So I didn't have to shamelessly ask. No, I'm hoping that the school district would be supportive of the project, or at minimum neutral to the project. I would appreciate no opposition from the school district, but that would be my ask. Clayton has provided a letter of support for the project that we have filed to our docket, as just to continue to build the history and demonstrate, that we're here, we've been engaged, and we're going to continue to be engaged throughout the process. And the Education and Community Fund is something that's been cemented in our company from the get-go, and that was from our founding father, Noel Ron, and the importance of establishing roots in a community and being good neighbors. And he sees no better way than to be able to, give to the school district. So that is, something unique to our project, and taxes are different everywhere. I know there's some states we work in where the way the taxes split up, it does go, the revenue from the facility also goes to the school district, and then this is something that's, above and beyond that. The way the taxes work in Wisconsin, with it going paid to the state and then to just the local towns and then the county, it does skip the school district, so this certainly helps ensure that you're not at a loss by any means for what's going on. With this project footprint right now, the tax revenue coming in on all the parcels for the last 3 years is somewhere between 16 and 20,000, varying kind of year to year collectively. So of course not all that's going to the district, and with the way the education fund is set up, assuming it is going to be, and don't put me on the spot for math, I should have had this number memorized, 80% of 20,000 a year. So would be going to Amery. And I say also in that capacity too, because if for some reason we got later on down the line and it was an 80 megawatt project because of interconnection, then that value would scale based on the final sizing of the project. But and I will also say, we do, with our operational projects that we have, we certainly try in the communities where we've been cemented to have educational opportunities with the school districts as well. So that is something, we always have an open door there to reach out. And it's a really neat and growing industry. There's a lot of jobs in the renewable energy sector, specific to the really electricians when it comes to the solar aspect of things. But Clayton and I are discussing other potential with a beehive, with some of the native mixes to already have the pollinator habitat there, what could be done. So anyways, we're always looking to explore and partner in ways beyond just, writing a check. So if there are other educational opportunities during the development process too that you would see as beneficial to the school, I'd be happy to be engaged in that capacity. I've done presentations from as young as, first graders, and I gotta tell you, sometimes I'm like, I think I should bring some of those PowerPoints to some of my public hearing meetings that I go to, because it actually brings it to a really nice, just basic level, but it's helpful. So we have them for all ages, happy to do things like that as well and be a resource throughout. And if there are, as we're going throughout this development process too, if there are specific areas where the school district would say, hey, we are looking for, $500 for X, Y, and Z, or $1,000 for X, Y, and Z. I'm more than happy to take that back to our community charity board too and advocate and try to get revenue during the development phase of the process as well for the district.
I guess the end goal would be that this would be an energy company that would be providing energy to this area. And so would customers have a choice then in what energy company, or would it take over some of the, you know what I'm saying?
I do know what you're saying.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So there's a couple, co-ops in the area as well as Xcel Energy kind of being the most dominant, larger utility for the area. So we don't have much influence over what they do with regard to their customers. However, what I can say is the electrons don't discriminate. So as soon as they go on the grid, they're going to go to wherever there's a demand and wherever anyone's, flipping a light switch, they're just drawn to that. So regardless of who the project's power purchase agreement is with, or regardless of who's owning and operating the project, with it being locally sourced, the energy from the project is going to get utilized by the community that it's in. So there is some added resiliency in having that there. And I will say one of the reasons why solar has become more attractive in the Midwest is because solar is operating at peak when our grid is the most stressed and when we tend to have the most outages here. We don't have outages in the winter. No one's worried about keeping extra meat in their freezer over, the winter and it's spoiling. But in the summer, that can be a real thing. And the solar projects are at peak. And that is one of the reasons the utilities have been seeing them as so beneficial to start mixing into their existing fleets, is because of that. They don't have to keep on as many of their giant gas plants just to power on when there's an outage and flip a switch. And that's pretty costly to turn a lot of those on.
Interesting. Thank you.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody else has any questions.
Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Very much. Appreciate lots of really good information.
All right, we'll back up now to administrative and department reports, starting with the administrators.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Mr. Fern already kind of covered our wrestling championship stuff. I do have to ask Mr. Derfler, were you as jealous of me when I got to do the state send-offs and state returns as I am of Mr. Fern right now?
They're one of the best things that you could ever possibly be a part of.
Oh,
They're
those are
fantastic.
so much fun, and yeah,
It's
you're
one of the
pretty
many
jealous
reasons-
watching that, Jeff.
It's one of the many reasons you're jealous of Mr. Fern, I'm sure.
I just wanted you to admit that you were jealous of me. Of course. All right. We did have our ACT boot camp a couple weeks ago, and it was a very successful day. We've received feedback from a number of our students who said, it was fabulous. Our teachers bought all in, the students bought all in, and it's like Super Bowl tomorrow at the high school. Our juniors are fired up and ready to go, and we had a huge treat today. The second grade teachers and their students surprised us. They came over and they decorated all the sidewalks outside leading into our building with words of motivation for our kids tomorrow. And I'm sure if it's not out on social media yet, it will be. I know Tracy was out there taking pictures, but that was just a really thoughtful thing, and just, once again, shows just how great our community is, so that was awesome. Mr. Melberg did say it was distracting to his kids in the classroom that were learning, because they wanted to go out and help or something. Last week, we pulled off Snow Week. Our student council, our students, everybody rose to the challenge. It was a lot of fun. We certainly made the most of it, and all the credit goes to Heidi Williamson, our student council leader, our student council kids, and those kids that decided they were going to make the most of it, and they just keep doing that, so that's great. As I mentioned before, we do have the ACT coming up tomorrow. We'll begin working on the master schedule just after spring break, and our spring sports will be kicking off after spring break as well. So a lot of really fun things going on at the high school, exciting things going on. Any questions? Thank you.
Well, Josh, I won't say I'm jealous of you, but I do look up to you, and I wear the same shirts. I could look like you when I come up here to talk.
I saw that. I thought you guys were on the memo thing again tonight.
Yep. Well, we've had a lot of really interesting things going on at the middle school. We just started our third trimester today. It's the first time we've been on trimesters this year. There are some interesting things that go with it. It's different for us. So we're going to be posting grades very soon and getting those things out to parents. So that was exciting. Middle School Quiz Bowl. So we did have a sixth grade grand champion team that won the sixth grade quiz bowl, but it's kind of a fun thing and they take it pretty serious. And that was a lot of fun, watching the kids kind of get a chance to compete with each other on academics. We do have DI going on in the district, Destination Imagination. They did not have a regional competition. From my understanding, groups were able to submit information remotely, and then they'll be doing a state competition, which also I believe will be remote done. We are getting very close to starting our forward state test. At the middle school, we're going to start 1 week after spring break, and so that puts us heavy into some of the required online tools, trainings, sampler items, and just kind of making sure the kids are familiar with the way the test works. And then we will be starting our test at the middle school on March 30th is our first date. And again, that's a state test through grades 3 in reading, language, arts, and math. And then science and social studies at grades 4 and 8, and then social studies at grade 10. We're going through a lot of that, to making sure kids are prepared for that. We've been doing some interviews at the middle school, and you'll see here, we hired a new school success coordinator to take place with Julie Montgomery, who's leaving us at the middle school and high school. And I know there's been a lot of different staff openings coming up here, and there'll be a lot of interviews, and where all that falls out will be real exciting. Finally, we have a Warrior Way celebration coming up here the week after we get back from break. And we've really been trying hard to be creative with those. A Warrior Way celebration is part of our PBIS, and it's about celebrating working together, a way to bring the whole school together. We do concentrate on what it's like to be a warrior and to be positive and to follow a lot of our expectations, and they can win tickets to win prizes. Then we come up with a theme, a character ed type theme for the month, and you usually set some goals that they can win, like the kids that win can throw water balloons at me. They love that one.
You don't know why.
Yeah, and different things like that. And it's been harder because we can't go into the gym and have all the kids, and that's really what it was about. It was like a pep rally, get them all together. It's been hard for us to do that. So we've been doing a lot of remote ones and individual grade level ones and trying to get outside when we can. So I'm really excited with this weather turning, and hopefully it stays this nice so that we can quickly melt the snow and get outside again with these kids. It's a lot easier to do those things when you're outside. So we're excited for that. And we have one planned, and the teachers have been doing a nice job planning that. So those are some of the things that are going on right now at the middle school. Any questions? Okay.
Thank you. Okay, short and sweet here. We had parent-teacher conferences, as you know, and once again, we perform them by either Zoom or phone conferences. Once again, finding out that our parents really like those conferences. We had 92% participate. We are just finishing trimester 2. Report cards were due into the office today. They will be available on Power School on Thursday evening. And we did this at the end of our first trimester, where we didn't copy off the report cards, and we just said that they would be available if parents wanted them. And we only printed 5 report cards. So we're once again doing that very same thing. The report cards will be posted in Power School on Thursday after school. But if any family would like a printed copy, just call the office and we'll get that taken care of. Like Tom was talking about, we have Warrior Way celebrations, and that is coming up at the end of this week. We are doing an all-school bingo. We've not done it before, so Mr. M is going to help me, and I'm going to call off numbers, and we have prizes in each of the neighborhoods. And the students, when they yell bingo, they can run out and grab a prize, and we'll keep going for about 20 minutes or a half an hour. Just trying to once again celebrate being a community, but we still have to be in our neighborhoods, and I think it'll be great. looking forward to it. And then after spring break, coming back, and we're getting ready for the forward exam. The intermediate is waiting a couple weeks. We're not starting until April 12th. Any questions? Thank you.
Hello. So Tara Rose talked to you about remote learning. I'm going to share our information on remote conferences. We had 98% of our families participate in conferences, which is phenomenal, one of our higher percentages. And this year I was curious, or this time I was curious as to how many of our families chose Zoom conferences over a phone conference, and it was almost equal. 178 families participated via Zoom, and 176 participated by telephone. So it was very, very, very good result of the conferences. So one of the big things that we are doing this year at the elementary school is we're teaching our students about culturally, that's a tough word, culturally responsive practices. And in addition, we have taken time to recognize and celebrate different national Hispanic, Native American, Black history, and Asian Pacific Islander months throughout the year. And we're trying to create an awareness and understanding and respect of differences. And our whole staff has embraced this initiative, but I want to speak specifically about our wonderful art program. Mrs. Anderson did a special project with the kids, and it's centered around this book, The Color of Us. And the children, what they did in The Color of Us, it highlights that people are made up of different skin color tones. And so she had the children create these different color tones of skin. And then they painted, and they created a bookmark. And the bookmark represents all the different colors of skin. And then on the outside, they have, like this one says, "We are special," "The colors of us," "We are all welcome," "Strength and diversity." So all of the children made 2 bookmarks, and they are keeping one themselves and giving one away. So they have a special bookmark for each one of you. And Mrs. Hosking, you have to take this one, but everybody else you can just pass that along. So I thought that was a really great project. Again, the whole school has embraced the learning that goes along with this. And I want to give a specific shout out to Lisa Benson, who is our PBIS coordinator, our Tier 1 coordinator, that has been very responsible for a lot of this taking place in our school. Another fun thing that we're doing during the month of March, we have a March Madness reading program, and our children are actually reading books and filling out a sheet of paper, rating the book as either a book to read, or an okay book to read, or a not so okay book to read. But our goal is to have these slips go around our entire school building. So right now they are about 1/3 of the way through with all these book reviews that our kids have made. And of course the gimmick is to get around our school, but the beautiful thing about it is our children are reading more. And so kudos to our Title I program, who has been sponsoring that program and encouraging our kids to read. And we too are having a Warrior Way celebration. It's this Friday, and ours is going to be outside in the snow. So there are a lot of fun activities that are being planned for Friday afternoon.
If you have any snow left.
Yeah,
if there's any snow left, but we are creative over in this school, so we have it covered. Lots of fun things are taking place. And just a couple of dates to remember. Our report cards are going home this Thursday in family folders. Program option forms for our 4K families, those entering 4K, are due March 26th, which is just around the corner. And then program option forms for the rest of our school grades K through grades third grade, are due on April 19th. So, any questions? Thank you.
Good evening. Took up quite a bit of time last month, so I'm going to make this one pretty quick. I just have one real item I want to loop you into, and that is a recent grant that the school district Amery has submitted, and that's in partnership with the Amery Area Community Foundation, and they are in partnership then with the St. Croix Valley Foundation, and this is a grant that they're putting out for schools and nonprofits. There's a total of $110,000 available for the groups to support mental health initiatives, education, with the goal of it not just being here school-centered, but also some impact to the community, whether that's a parent night, some education that takes place here in the school, and then perhaps a couple sessions or book studies outside in the community. Pretty wide open for a bunch of great ideas. And so our People Services vertical team, spearheaded by Miss Lisa Benson, counselor at elementary school, was able to put together in a pretty short order an application for this grant. And so we will see where that lands, but it's a $2,500 grant. And one of the speakers that we would really angle to try to get is a professor at UW River Falls named Professor Todd Savage. He does a lot of work in child psychology, trauma-informed care, just responding to mental health needs in schools, culture-responsive teaching, race and gender issues. We're really hoping to get Mr. Savage to participate in some professional development here within our teaching groups, and then potentially lead a couple book studies that would be open to both staff here in the school district of Amery and the community. We are really optimistic, and we're hoping to get a hold of this grant and be able to roll out some professional development. Any questions? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the next administrative report would be the Clubhouse Before and After School Program.
All right, so another year of Clubhouse under our belt, almost. So this is where we're at right now. As you can see, we're just now getting fully enrolled again. Because of COVID, numbers were down. They're still down in our before and after school program compared to where we were at last year. But the calls are starting to roll in. We still have a really great wait list for the childcare. But I'm hopeful that for summer, we will be back at our pre-COVID enrollment numbers. I'm starting to get about 2 to 3 calls a week for people looking for childcare. So meeting the challenge of COVID-19 in the childcare, that has been quite the challenge for all of us. A lot of flexibility, adaptability, and a great sense of humor. So the big thing that helped us through some of these things that I want to highlight is we did receive a little over $30,000 from the Child Care Counts COVID-19 payment program through the state of Wisconsin, through DCF, to be used for staff recruitment and retention. And then we also received a little over $49,000 this fall for providing safe, healthy, and high-quality child care. This has allowed to pay for staff training. Most of my staff now are pyramid model trained, which is PBIS. We're able to implement that at the early childhood level, how to set up environments to help foster children's mental health and growth, and how to manage challenging behaviors. So we can just continue this all the way up, through the school, through the elementary school. And I just want to give a huge shout out to my amazing staff. As over Christmas break, I had people out on vacations, 4 staff in quarantine, And I would not have been able to stay open if it wasn't for the amazing girls I have that work for me. The girls that have come back from college that are doing online learning and working. They're so flexible with their hours. And my own staff who are willing to, they may have already worked 40 hours this week, but they were willing to step in and do another day, just to make sure that we could keep the classrooms open as much as possible and parents could go to work. So I'm really, really grateful for the great team we have there. And of course, the cute, fun pictures, the kids, even with COVID, we're still able to do some really great activities. We're able to, play and learn and grow. They're still discovering the science and wonder of a bubble. Teachers, we're so used to the masks now, you feel kind of weird without them when you're trying to teach, so. The friendship skills that we're building, I think, lifelong. And then our before and after school and our summer camp. Summer camp will be going into its 13th year this summer. School-age programs in its 14th year. And it's looked really different this year. So we had very small groups for summer camp last year. We had to, split. We were in different sections of the school. We were split by ages. Switch to the next slide, Becky. As you can see, summer camp, those of you who have had kids in summer camp know that that's usually just one grade level. And that was a whole group that we had. No field trips, none of those things that we would normally do. So they did art, they learned how to sew their own masks. We did, on non-school days, we still did our cooking activities. They made snow signs this winter. So we still found lots of really great, wonderful things to do with them. But our hope for summer 2021 is that our favorite activity will at least return, even if we can't do a field trip. We are going to bring out the big water slide and just try to make it as memorable and as fun as we can for them. That is my goal. So, any questions?
How many kids do we have now on the wait list for childcare?
I just added 3 more today, a set of twins. And I just took a set of twins in my infant room as well. So right now I have 3, I just found out about another baby too. I have 4 infants for fall, 4 1 and 2 year olds, 1 3-year-old, and I'm now at 5 4-year-olds. But, and I guess the one thing I didn't put on here, a lot of families don't bother to get on the wait list. They call, I don't have room for them at that moment, and they just find something else because they can't wait. Because the only time I usually have openings is the Monday after school gets out, because the kids that aren't returning leave, and when 4K starts. So it's usually twice a year. I'll have anywhere from 5 to 10 openings, and that's it.
And how does it look for summer? When is, sorry.
Same time as summer school sign-up.
Yes, summer school sign-up, yeah.
I'm really hopeful because I've had a lot of calls already for people wanting to get their kids signed up. And they're already calling for next fall for before and after school care. So I'm pretty sure we're going to be back at our, at least 75 children enrolled. My hope is to have 100, and then average 60 to 75 a day. So, and our spring break, actually, we have around an average of 40 children a day, which actually is pretty high for us for spring break.
You'd like to expand?
I would love to expand. After COVID, I'm up for any challenge.
Good. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that's all there is for the administrative and department reports. On to informational items. We already heard the first item, which is the Apple River Solar. So on to the school board election.
Okay, you'll see a sample ballot up on the screen or in your folder. We have a school board election coming up on April 6th, 2021. We've got 2 positions open. We have 2 candidates that have declared their candidacy, and then if somebody is a write-in, they're a write-in, but we won't know that until we get to April 6th. So it's all happening soon.
Okay, the next item would be the certified staff compensation and benefits guide.
Okay, there are a few items that we'll be running through. Shar and Dale and I met last week with members of the certified staff and also members of the support staff to run through some proposed changes to the language in the compensation and benefits documents. No action is necessary tonight. It's simply an informational item and an opportunity for Shar and Dale to chime in with what they learned and also for you to ask questions. So the first item is the certified staff salary scale. The column that's highlighted in blue is the item that you would need to pay attention to. The current column is obviously where salary is at for certified staff currently. The proposal is for certified staff to move forward into that blue column, the 21-22 column, and you'll notice the sort of the squiggly arrow at the bottom of that column indicates what that looks like financially. If we, as a district, do nothing, just leave staff salary alone and just have natural flow through that salary scale, the increase in the budget would be $157,000. If this was the change that occurred, it would be an additional $81,100. Now, please note at the bottom of the page, we don't know where we're going to hire in. We have 7 retirements. We don't know where we're going to hire in. 6 of them are certified staff. So it could be anywhere on the salary scale. We just don't know that yet. So the only thing that you would need to take action on in April is just the blue column. The hope is to do a proposed increase over 3 years, and then you see the 22, 23, and then the 23, 24. The logic behind a 3-year increase is we can't afford to go from the current column to the far right column in 1 year. The cost of that movement could be upwards of $400,000 or $500,000. That's just not prudent. We can do anything we want, but what don't we do? And if we spend that kind of money there, we might put ourselves in trouble. So that's the proposal. I'm not sure if Shar or Dale wanted to chime in with anything, or if anyone had any questions on that first piece.
So, I guess in regards to the first piece, the 157,000 approximately, that would be covered in our budget.
That's a budgeted for expense and always was so. Yeah. The 81,000 is a budgeted expense as well, because a couple of things are occurring. We have the non-renewal of a staff person potentially. We have the reduction of a grounds position within the district. And we also are, no offense to the 7 retirees, they're all going out in the I's. They're not going out in the A's and the B's. And the folks we hire in some cases, are going to come in the A's at 23, 24 years old. And the total cost savings by my estimation, and working with Andy on this, will be about $200,000 for retirees out and new hires in. That might not be exact, but that's the ballpark that we have estimated.
That's a pretty safe guess, though, right?
It is a pretty safe guess. You're not hiring eyes to replace eyes, because folks that are in that territory typically are in their 20-plus year in their career. They're vested in retirement-wise wherever they are. They're not moving typically. Mm-hmm. If they're moving, they're getting out of education altogether.
And the 2 positions that are not being renewed, or we're not looking to fill those positions then?
We're not. One of those changes has already occurred. I mean, we've already moved a grounds person to the high school custodial position. That's happened 3 weeks or so ago.
And just because those positions are no longer necessary?
We did not have enough work for 2 people, and we had an opening at the high school, so that was the time to make the change. So that's what we did.
What's the other position that we're not hiring?
That hasn't all occurred yet, so I can't get into that right now.
Okay.
So that's the first piece, and when you look at the next item, the yellow, what you see there in the yellow column is what you just saw in the blue. So it's, in that regard, it's redundant, but on that first page of the Certified Staff Compensation and Benefits document, you'll also see PDH. PDH stands for Professional Development Hours. 30, 60, 90 has been a typical process, and this is ending our third year of this particular alternative compensation document, moving into our fourth next year. And one of the proposals is to change that to a 20, 40, 60. The compensation committee, which is some 15, 20 staff across the district, has had a lot of conversation about PDH. My recommendation as I sit here now is for us to look at that more before we make a change, and to do so in order to better understand how people are getting their PDH and where we might be falling short and where we might not be falling short. We've only had it for 3 years, so it's tough to say that we know everything we can. We know a lot, but we don't know everything we can on that one. So again, no action is required here this evening, but that's just the next item that I wanted to bring your attention to. The next page, page 2, there's a great deal of yellow there. Not necessarily that it's new, but we've reorganized some information, and I'll walk through that with you. The third bullet point there, the language states district office as opposed to district administrator. I'm not interested in receiving verification of things. That's better to be sent to Becky, because it will end up in the abyss that is my office if otherwise. And Becky is the all things PDH and then some, so we'll send it to the district office. The supplemental pay that you'll see noted here to be paid on that school year's contract, and it notes by what date that would occur, September 20th. All licenses or certifications must be current, not expired, to be eligible for annual supplemental payments. So the scale that you see there, those are all supplemental pays. There isn't anything new there. Those are items that were already there, so there's no yellow. Where we began to clean things up is by crossing out those next 2 sections. Didn't get rid of them, just reorganized them into bullet point 3 and bullet point 4. Bullet point 4, these are items that are in addition to, so you'll see second master's degree, you don't see that above, 317, and also special ed licenses. And we're going to bring to you next meeting which specific special ed licenses would qualify, because there are many, and many are used and many are not. So we're going to firm that up. And yes, we do have people with second master's degrees. That's happened occasionally in the district. Bullet point 4 is about credit reimbursement. So credit reimbursement paid no later than June 30th. And then credit reimbursement is limited to 6 credits, 500 per school year per type. And we put this in a separate section because these are reimbursements. They're not supplemental pays. So put those down at the bottom for the reading licenses and for special ed license. Just cleaned up the language, and when this is finalized, it'll look better and be a lot easier to follow. Any questions or thoughts, comments on this particular section before I move on?
So this is highlighted for approval as an action item on April 12th?
If you so choose, April 12th is when you take action. This evening, it's purely informational. Okay, if you move forward ahead in the document onto, I think it's the 6th page. Oh, I am incorrect. It is further along than that. It is on the 8th page. On the 8th page, you'll see language in yellow that is stricken, so to speak. And it states under leaves, personal days, the employee taking personal leave time will pay $100 per day to cover the assignment of the absent instructor. So that would mean that there isn't a payment that's due from the instructor who is absent for each of their personal days. They have 2, and what's happened for many years, decades, is they've paid for those when they've used them. And here's a little backstory on that. If someone is smartly using their days saving their sick days because they have value to them in retirement, and then needs to use, and a real good example would be a wedding, where perhaps is across the state and they need to go to, or they want to go to that, they would need to pay $100 to go to their, perhaps their son, their brother's, whoever's wedding, and paying $100 sort of is a sore spot in regards to how that plays out when you're trying to be smart about your sick days. So, to be a little more fair to staff, we are asking that they not have to pay for each of those days. So that's the proposal that exists. And I'm not sure if I best characterize the conversation from the other evening. Maybe you want to chime in, Char or Dale. I'm not sure if you do or not.
I think we also talked about that, and if I remember right, we were the only district in CISA 11.
In CISA 11, we're the only district that has that practice
which
presently.
Is 39 schools in our
39
area.
schools, yes.
Right, so, okay, just, I guess, worth pointing that out.
For me, it's the item I've heard most about for 15 years, and I've only been in this capacity for 2. I've heard about it a lot, in a negative way. So those are the sort of...
I think you did say something too about, though, if everybody took their 2 days a year, or a good chunk of them, how much of a cost that would be to the district?
If everyone used both days every single year, approximately 125 certified staff, so 125 times the 2, and then you do the math, would be about $25,000 at cost to the district. Now, if they don't, it doesn't look like that. I can't say they'll all use both. Maybe they will. I don't know that.
And the
That's
sub rate,
something-
the sub rate for a certified staff member would be $125 now a day instead of the
Well-
$90, right?
Well, the language right now is they pay 100, not pay 125.
Right, so I mean, even if they're paying 100, that costs the district 25 still.
That's correct.
And if you're taking a staff that has a salary of, an average salary of $40,000, certified staff, or $50,000, I think, is what we kind of looked at, and contracted for 185 days, their daily salary is still like $220, $230 some dollars. So they're still not paying what they're earning in a daily salary.
I'd have to run the math, but I think your calculations are pretty accurate.
So it's costing them $100, but they're still getting their still part of their daily rate.
Yeah, I understand your connection, how you're saying that, yes. Any other questions or thoughts on that item?
Can I make a suggestion
Sure.
before we take action on it? Just down here at the bottom with COVID leave on page 8.
Page 8.
Since we don't have the EPSALA leave anymore, maybe we want to remove that and change the wording then of number 2.
Well, the way we've worded it on page for COVID leave, if you notice, there are 2 sections, and we make reference to, on the next page, on page 9, you'll see there, it says, leave on January 1, 2021, or thereafter. So the language starts to change in that section. Because yes, true, it expired on the 31st. So it looks different now. We're hopeful that when we get out to the fall, we can take a pen and strike the whole thing, but we don't know that yet.
Right. Right, we might still need to have COVID leave in there, but
We
I
may.
just wonder if we take out the EPSALA leave part because it's expired and,
Eventually, that would be the quickest and easiest and really the first change, because that's not coming back. Everything I hear is that ship has sailed, that will never happen again. So anything we choose to do will be our own district choice. And most districts in this CISA have chosen to continue to have COVID leave because they continue to have folks go into quarantine. I mean, that hasn't stopped. It hasn't stopped here either.
The other item that we talked about at the listening session was on page 4, under benefits,
Okay.
item number 4.
Page
The
4.
payment in lieu of, the $4,000. I don't see that highlighted in this.
Nope, my recommendation would be to, for us to leave that as is. And my recommendation is, we haven't had really much conversation as a group in regards to what that dollar amount would be. Short of me filling in a dollar amount, it really was undecided as recently as 2 weeks ago. It sort of just came up as an afterthought. So that's why I didn't highlight it. It didn't seem as pressing as the other considerations. So those are the certified staff. Again, no action is necessary. Those are informational items here at this time. The support staff document.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh.
Can I just add one more thing
Yep,
for
go
the
ahead.
boards?
Yep, sure.
On knowledge is that the sentiment I think that Dale and I got that evening from the listening session is the salary was probably the most pressing situation that the staff wanted us to explore, because that does really touch every person on a daily basis in their life and their cost of living. So I think that was urged to us to take a look at the salary as we think about this for the next month.
I would say that would be highly accurate. That of all of the items, that would be first.
That, and in addition to that, maybe, we kind of focused a little bit maybe on the middle cell.
Yep.
Pay ranges, right?
A little backstory on that. We generally start where most others start. We finish high in the CISA, and in Middle Border Conference specifically, we start in the middle of the pack in the A's. In the I's, we're second after New Richmond. But in the middle would be the category of, in essence, B through E, mostly D and E. We are at the bottom. And that's where we sought to address the issues the most, was in the middle. You'll notice in the I category, there isn't any movement at all in regards to it being changed. So that's an accurate assessment, yes. And we've talked about that for a year and a half or more.
So that, and then in addition to that, we talked about that, the in lieu of payments for insurance, and we, I think, kind of had the opinion that, that could benefit a handful of people, where if we could look at the salary more, that would benefit everybody.
Everybody, yeah.
Well, yeah, just about everybody.
Just about everybody.
Yeah.
The support staff document, you'll see the same color, yellow, where changes are proposed. The first is the trainings and meetings at the bottom of that first page, becoming 1445 as opposed to 1316. It's cleaner in the business office to do that, or in the payroll office to do that, so that's a proposal. Meal reimbursement, Josh Bump, bus driver here for many years, shared with me that it's the same since the day he arrived. I defy any of you to find a restaurant and get a meal for $6. I don't think it's going to happen unless you're a light eater. So we've doubled it to 12. And we felt that was a long overdue change because Josh has been here longer than I've been here. So.
And we did actually talk about this at the prior listening session. We didn't have one last year because of COVID. It got canceled right before, but at the prior years, and so then it never, I don't know if it had happened because of just things.
We just didn't meet. We didn't make those changes because we were a little skittish on all of our finances.
Yeah, so that was talked about in the past, and they've still been waiting, so.
Yeah, a large fry at McDonald's hasn't gone down in price.
No.
So, page 2, position pay differential, a change. We first of all struck out that second. We're trying to add some more clarity here. This has come up since our listening session, actually. And it says in the second to last paragraph, an employee who temporarily assumes a position due to the absence of another employee, and we struck out that language, receives a position pay differential shall, after 2 weeks in this position, receive the pay differential for that position for the remainder of the temporary assignment. So if you fill in temporarily and there's a pay differential, you get the pay differential if you're there longer than 2 weeks. We just felt that was the most fair. An employee who receives a position differential in the regular position and temporarily assumes a position without a differential due to the absence of another employee shall retain their differential pay due to the temporary assignment. It wasn't fair to say, well, you're here now, but you don't get it. They're here because they were short-staffed, most likely. So that's a change that we proposed. And again, you wouldn't take action on that until next month. The next item is at the bottom of page 4. The retirement language we wanted to clear up, and it notes employees who are at least 56 and at least 15 years of service in the district shall be eligible for retirement Support staff retirees will be paid $90 per day prorated for the employee's schedule. Some work 7, 7 1/4, 7 1/2, not 8. For each day accumulated personal leave time, and then we struck out the 100-day cap. There are folks here, 3 that we are aware of, that have more than 100 days banked. That one person has 134 days, they wouldn't get paid for those 34 days. If they've had 134 days of PLT, they've been here all the time. So we felt that it's fair to compensate them for their service to the district. And it's paid through payroll, and that's noted there on the bottom of that page as well. Any other comments that you wanted to make on that language? Because it was unclear. It definitely was unclear.
There was extensive discussion.
Yeah, there was.
Regarding that at the listening session, so.
The next item is on page 6 and spills over onto page 7. And that reads, leave and vacation. If you notice here, the original scale, after 1 year, you're at 5 days of vacation. After 2, you're at 10, and then you go all the way to 12. From 2 years to 12 years, that's a long haul without any kind of bump. And then you go 8 more years without a bump. So we just simply added more levels. Nothing changed on the existing levels, but we added 1, 2, 5, 10, 12, 15, and 20, so a person can have a bump prior to, going from 2 years to 12 years. Again, that's a long time without getting additional days. That's service to the district. You clearly are committed to the district if you've stayed 12 years. And accrued vacation is paid through payroll. And that was a point that the members of the support staff have made in multiple settings with me, including the other night. They just wanted to see if we could do something there. So that's a proposal that you would entertain in April.
Yeah,
Any
that just
questions?
kind of made good common sense, I think, when we talked about it the other night, that waiting for so long in between to get those interval bumps was kind of
They
crazy.
shouldn't have to
Makes
go
sense.
from 2 years to 12 years to get.
Sure, and the pay before we made that change was the same from year 4 to year 15. That's a long time.
We did have discussion about some other positions of compensation regarding descriptions of duties. Has that been kind of just tabled at this point? Or?
Tabled at this point in time.
Okay.
So those are the items for certified staff and support staff benefits guide and handbook. And that's all I got for you on that one.
All right, well, that is it for the informational items. We will move on to action items. The first action item would be the donations to the district.
This is an item you'll need to take action on if you so choose. Angel Fund donation. Warren Again Thrift Shop has donated $300 to the Angel Fund. And please know, whenever we get a donation, we slice it up into 4 pieces of the pie and divvy it into the 4 buildings. And it is used now more than ever because we've got a lot of families that are living in hardship with the amount of people that are out of work and have struggles through COVID. So it will be put to good use, and we thank you. So that's up to you to take action on that one.
I'll make a motion that we accept the Angel Fund donation from Warren Again Thrift Shop with our appreciation.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, the Angel Fund donation is accepted, and the next action item would be the Start College Now and Early College Credit Program.
Mr. Gould will handle that one. This is the old youth options. Perhaps at some point we'll stop referring to it as the old youth options.
So this is the mandated program, as Keith pointed out last time, that I just simply have to report to you guys that we have 4 students who would like to do the Start College Now program. It is a state mandated program, but I'm informing you that we have 4 students interested in enrolling in the fall.
And you would need to take action to allow them to do that.
I move that we allow the 4 students who are interested in the Start College Now program to be accepted into that program.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, the 4 students are accepted to the Early College Credit Program. The next action item would be the Lena Elementary School Playground.
Okay, Cheryl and I are going to work through this one together. It has always been the position of our district to work with our parent organizations, and it's safe to say that the elementary school, just as the intermediate school, has a very active, very involved parent organization. This was their brainchild, not Cheryl's or mine, over a year ago or so, that they wanted to do an upgrade to the elementary playground by, for those who have not seen it, the American Ninja Warrior. It's a viewed program in my home every chance they get. And what you'll see at the bottom of the page is sort of a breakdown of how this would be funded. The parents as partners have raised $15,000 towards this project. Cheryl through the elementary office has $5,000, and the district, this would be through building and grounds, the $700,000 piece that we have through referendum from April of 2017. This was an item. Now, the way this money became available, because this wasn't on the list last year, the phone system upgrade that was originally on the list, that's simply being funded through a whole different part of the budget. So money became available to be able to do this. So that's how it came to be. So the actual program, the actual upgrade, if you will, I'm going to let Cheryl explain, because she's been working with the vendor on this. So that really starts with the page that you see here.
Okay, the part that I'd like to just really make sure you understand is that the Parents as Partners group has been just an amazing group to work with over the years of my principalship. And every year there are parents that step up and they commit and a lot of time and volunteer. And every year we have done a major fundraiser in the fall. And the philosophy over all of those years of working with parents has been that the children that earn the money should be able to benefit from the money. And so typically our income from that fundraiser is anywhere from, it's been $8,000 to clear money is $8,000 to about $12,000, $13,000, $14,000, depending upon the year. This current year, the COVID year, ended up being our second highest fundraiser. We've been working with Hanson's fundraisers for years, and Wayne, our main fundraiser person, retired, so he recommended Cherrydale, which was the vendor that we used this year. And the difference between Wayne and Cherrydale, although they were both excellent, is Cherrydale offered us the opportunity to do online sales, and that really increased the amount of money that we made. So essentially, we cleared about $25,000. We raised about $25,000, but then we had to pay Cherrydale. So anyway, our fundraiser this year was very, very lucrative. And I think it's also important that you know some of the things that our Parents as Partners has done with the money besides purchasing playground equipment. Over the years, almost every year, they donate money to teachers for classroom supplies. They purchase things for our playground, and that's so important because the playground is a child's work is their play. And the playground is an extension of the classroom. So they have purchased things that we just purchased like 15 Tonka trucks for our sandbox. We've purchased sleds, shovels, balls. They pay for field trips like to the transportation, to the apple orchard, to the pumpkin patch, so families don't have to come up with that money. They have paid for our reading celebration incentive program for celebrations in the school. It's just an organization that has been so giving to our school district. So in addition to this massive purchase that we're doing this year, the Parents as Partners has never asked for money for playground equipment. And it just so happens that this year, Dr. Durfler, when I presented it to him, said, we have this money available, so we can present it to the school board. It's called a champion track system. It is like the Ninja Warrior. It's supposed to be done kind of like, in order. in order. What is the word I'm looking for?
My kids,
Obstacle course, thank you.
my kids do it in my living room every evening, using the furniture that exists.
Oh, my goodness. And the children, I did work with a group of children, about 29 kids, because the big climbing wall there, they had a piece of equipment in there called the bongos that we have in another place on our playground. So I had the teachers, every teacher sent me some students to work with, and they voted on 3 different pieces of equipment. And that climbing wall was the most popular of the 3 of the 3 pieces. So anyway, most of these, you're going to see a picture of how this all works, if it works for us, but most of these are climbing and running through and kind of using your muscles to go through it. So very fun and exciting. This is an aerial view of it. And then the next, this is a little video which will give you a really good idea of of how this operates. Doesn't that look like fun?
The only thing that needs to change there is, instead of the bell at the end, there needs to be a buzzer and then smoke that comes out.
That's another budget item.
The only other comment I want to add to this is, our playground isn't used just during the day. It's used at night, in the morning. If you go out there, I know I enjoy it with my grandchildren, bring it, and so it's enjoyed by our entire community.
We
Anyway.
oftentimes come here with building and ground stuff. George is going to be here soon. And it isn't all that fun and exciting, and not really of direct benefit to kids in the way that this is. This would be a very nice addition to the setting out there. It would be directly for kids immediately. The reason we're seeing it now, because we got to get it on the calendar. So does the gym floor. We can't schedule it in June for July installation. Need some lead time. So that's why you're seeing it in March.
I do find it interesting that we are talking about compensation at the same time, because our outdoor aides are really going to earn their money when this goes in. But this is I don't know if anybody watches American Ninja Warrior, but I'm a huge fan of it, and just the strength that these people have to do this, I'm just in total awe of. I mean, I have farm girl strength, but these people are on another level, and for kids to do this, I think it would help so many of our kids just have that focus to do things, especially our more active kids, and focus and accomplishment and what they get out of it from self-accomplishment, how far they're going to get through the course, and if they actually get through the course. I think that's kind of unmatched when you talk about intrinsic motivation for kids. So.
And I say it as the father of 3 elementary kids. Cheryl's correct. The playground is an extension of the classroom. This is learning, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
And they make it look really easy. They do. They love to climb.
So you would need to take action if this is what you choose to do, based on the specs that you saw
Cheryl.
there at the bottom of the first page.
Can you tell us where it's going to go?
Yeah, we met last week.
We are working, did you want to answer
Go
that
ahead,
one?
you can talk about it if you can explain it.
So we went out on the playground, Sean and myself and Tom Olson, our grounds person, and we're going to put it in a place where it wouldn't have to be moved in the event of any future growth of the building or changes in the building. So if you're looking, it's on the east side of the building. It would be the northeast side.
Towards the
is
bus garage,
what
but
we're
not
looking
that
at.
far out. Close to the existing playground, at an angle, but towards the bus garage direction. We've got a site all set. We'd have to prep the site before they arrive, and that's just peat gravel, and Tom's pricing that out here in the next couple of weeks.
Just wondering, like, would that affect where the soccer fields
No.
are?
It's not
No,
that far out,
we-
we thought about that.
That was a
That's
definite
much further out.
conversation. Yep.
Just, I'm trying to picture where.
Yep, it's hard to picture when you're out there.
Kind of back by the
covered with snow.
gazebo, back there.
There's plenty of room.
Yeah.
Yep.
So again, you need to take action on this if you so choose.
I'll make the motion, we approve the elementary school playground equipment.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, the elementary school playground equipment is approved. Thank you. The next action item would be the elementary and secondary school emergency relief fund.
Andy and George are going to help me walk through this. This is entirely new to all school districts in America. This is the Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Grant Program. This is the second phase of grant money. In essence, what it stands for, not the acronym itself, is it provides funds for districts to respond to changes in student needs due to COVID-19. At the elementary, we have an issue with our HVAC system, and it is directly connected to the improvement of the environment in regards to the air that people breathe. The HVAC system of the elementary is original to the building, and if you don't remember that date, it's 1967, so we're talking 54 years old. In recent weeks, which has brought this to our attention, we've had some malfunction in our HVAC system, and and that has resulted in a great many space heaters being added to the elementary setting. Certainly, our weather is warming up, and we would very well get through the summer on into the fall. But we'll have winter again next year, and if this goes out in the middle of winter, we're going to have a huge problem. So, yes, it comes with a price tag. The HVAC system always will. Thankfully, the ESSER grant money, and Andy can talk more about that if you have specific questions, and I want to read this to you, allows the following expense. The following description allows for the expense of HVAC to be paid for: inspection, testing, maintenance, repair, replacement, and upgrade projects to improve the indoor air quality in school facilities, including mechanical and non-mechanical heating, ventilation, and air conditioning systems, filtering, purification, and other air cleaning, fans, control systems, and window and door repair and replacement. That is the very definition of an HVAC system. So the district is set to receive $574,813 as ESSER money, and our proposal is to replace the HVAC system with that money. This money is not coming out of our budget. This money is coming to us in the form of a grant, and this money goes out to pay for an HVAC system. This was not an expense we accounted for because we didn't foresee it coming, and this was not money we expected to arrive until very recently.
And it would have caused other conversations if we didn't have this grant money.
If we didn't have $574,000 and this needed to be done, pretty much the entire slate of the building and grounds budget would have been devoted to this, because this is obviously a costly item. So let's talk about what the HVAC system has going on right now. George is going to help us with that. There are some lovely pictures, and I say that with sarcasm, certainly, of what's happening. So go ahead, George.
Yeah, there's our current system. The photo on the right's got the original steam valves still in place. The boilers, when they were changed out, they did at the time, put in hot water coils, but they never changed out any of the piping to the coils. That photo on the left, it doesn't really show exactly, but those belts are about 6 feet long from pulley to pulley. And the issue we're having right now is from that bigger pulley on the top, there's a shaft that goes all the way through there that's 5.5 inches thick all the way across, about 12 feet long. I tried to get Mr. Durfler to lift the end, but he had no interest in doing that. So when they installed these, they went on before the roof went on. This is a fairly costly project because in the photo to the right there, you can see the roof on the elementary school is spancrete, and you can't cut into it. If it was your typical tin roof, tin decking, we'd just cut a hole in it and drop a new air handler all the way down. So because that's not possible, it's a very costly project. That left photo there, there's a bearing on that pulley side, and on the other side of that, there's another bearing, and that bearing's failed. And to get to that bearing, and we'll see that in the next photo, but to get to that'd be the center one. We'd have to have a pretty skinny maintenance guy to get between the block and that. So literally, Mrs. Meyer probably should get a stipend for as much the headache she gets from the constant pounding from that bad bearing. We busted a hole through that block wall to access that bearing from an extension ladder in Mrs. Meyer's room. So she gets to listen to that thing. It literally wants to come apart. So right now we've got it reduced to only 50% speed because I don't know that we could even make it till the rest of the year. The left picture kind of shows the second room up there that houses 3 other air handlers. And it's packed. You pretty much have to do the limbo. Is that the right word? Limbo?
It is.
Yeah. To get underneath there, and I did have Mr. Durfler underneath
I made it through. That was like American Ninja Warrior right there.
Yeah. So they're jam-packed. Right now, meeting with Train and Dakin, which was formerly McQuay, because we can't cut a hole through the ceiling. We can't bust through the wall because the mezzanines are only about a 4 or 5 foot from the other roof. We're going to have to go through the outside air damper opening. So once all that ductwork comes off, we'll be left with 29.5 inches by 120 inches in the one room, up to 191 inches in the other room. So those pieces could be a little larger. But literally, both companies, Train and McQuay, they're going to have to custom build these in pieces for that room to fit through that hole. So that's the other reason why it's fairly costly is there's a lot of hands-on bolting these together rather than just dropping it all through a hole through the roof.
So the nature of hearing this now is, again, the money is now new to us in the form of the grant, and we have to get it on the calendar in order to get it done, because this is going to take the better part of a month, month and a half to get finished, and we need to do it in the summer, not when kids are here. So that's the nature of it. You're not going to be able to take action tonight because we need 3 bids, and George's been tracking that down. So within the next month, though, we'll need to take action, if that's what you choose to do with this money, to get someone on the calendar. It's not because we're not doing our due diligence and getting bids. This is very recent news. This is last 3 weeks kind of news.
Yeah, and this will be the new style. This happens to be a McQuay air handler, but you can see there's handles on the side where the motors are actually inside there, and we can go in there, and they're more of a direct drive type motor to shaft. So The other thing they do is they'll put, there's another large one, and that's about the size of the second, number one air handler over there that services the north end of the elementary, pushes the air down into the tunnel. It's about that big. But we can actually get inside that thing, work on the motor, and not have to spend days trying to figure out how we can service a failing part, because getting those parts out of there are almost impossible. That second particular room up there, if we were to try, we did it one time. We replaced a shaft and we had to go through the gymnasium, bust a hole in the gym, and brought the shaft through that way, because those air handlers are so tight together, you can't pull a shaft out within the room.
This is not the way we want to spend $574,000 in the form of a grant, but this is the necessity in regards to the heating and cooling of the elementary, which in the place we live, it's not really an option. We have to be able to do that, heating, cool our building.
So are you actually asking to?
We won't take action tonight because we don't have our 3 bids. We might not even be able to get 3 bids because most folks don't do this kind of work, but we're already working with 2, so you'll see this in the future.
I've got 3.
You've got 3,
Yep.
okay.
And so it's not possible to put it on the roof like the others, or would that be cheaper to do that instead of having to pull everything, or how, I guess, are there options?
The problem there as well is we'd still have to bust through that spancrete roof, and by the time we figured out structurally how to maintain the integrity of that roof, it would be very, very costly. The other thing is it would look horrendous because that one air handler up there is probably the size of one of those short buses. It's very big, and to throw that right on the center of the building, it wouldn't look that good. The high school has a bunch of rooftop gas-fired units, and they actually kind of fit in over there because the roof of the high school looks like the surface of the moon after they added all the fan coil units over years and the outside air intakes. So it works there, and now that I bring it up, it's probably going to bother you guys when you drive by and you say, yeah, those things aren't very good looking up there. But,
And
yeah.
this replaces the total HVAC system, not just pieces and parts of it, this is the whole thing?
This is 90% of it. The 1987 edition has an air handler as well, but it's serviceable, so we're able to get in there and fix things as they go. So that one, I didn't even have them look at that. The other reason to do all 5 of them is one of the contractors said basically if we fix the one that's failed right now, it will cost us double rather than take out both of them that are in one room, just because when they set up and they have a crane there and they're lifting these things, that they're already mobilized on site. And then by clearing out that room, they're able to, bring the piping in where it needs to go. And so there's some cost avoidance involved with getting it all done now. And thankfully that ESSER money is available for such items.
And we expect this to be more than the grant money.
We're hopeful it's not, but it could be less. It could.
One
We're
day
hopeful.
I'm feeling good about it, and then the next day they tell me something else. But last word I got was I think we can do it for a little bit less than that even.
Which would mean $0 out of the budget.
Okay, that's where I was going with that.
That's an excellent line of inquiry. We don't want to spend money out of the budget, do it, but we got to do it. I mean, it's HVAC.
And there's still a lot of unknowns about the budget for next year, as you're all aware from what's going on in the state. And this is just a big relief to be able to have this available, so definitely.
I'd love to show any one of you if you want to go up and take a look at those.
We've been up there.
We were up
We
there.
were up there.
In the elementary one?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
When you did the tour
Last
with
year,
us?
the
Did I
tour.
get you all the way underneath the pipes to the?
Well, maybe not that far. I don't
Wound
know.
us around.
Well, good, I'm glad you remembered that.
And it was, and I have to say, I think we did say this at that meeting, that it was a nice, well-kept space there, George, and you've done a really
Well-kept,
good job.
old-looking space, but.
It is, but
yeah.
it's clean and very neat and very tidy, and you've done a really good job maintaining what was there, because as somebody who's on a farm knows that maintenance is everything, and that's a hard job, and the more you maintain, the less it costs you in the long run, and that was a very nice presentation when we walked through there, so.
Cool. So the only guy I gotta get up there now is Andy.
You won't be coming back out again, probably, if that was the case.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, George.
That is an action item then?
Nope,
or
we'll come back
is
to
it
that
gonna-
when we have
okay.
our bids
It's
locked
on the
in.
app. All right, then the last action item would be the personnel.
So you'll see there the new employment contracts and athletic contracts, rather than read them. I will assume that you see them there, or you can read them. Then there are 3 retirements that I'll speak to here in a moment, and then resignations. And you'll need to take action to do all 3 of those categories, however you see fit, and then I'll talk about the 3 retirements. So I'll leave that up to you.
I'll make a motion we approve the personnel action.
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, the personnel action is approved.
Okay, the 3 retirees in no particular order, well, actually, other than alphabetical order on the sheet, but I have them out of order. Miss Anik is the first. She has 35 years in education, 35 years in 3 months. She was a long-term sub for 3 months. 1 year sabbatical, so 34 and 3 is what she's saying. Favorite memories. Favorite memories have been spending time with amazing people I have worked with and the great kids I have taught. I'm looking forward to in retirement, family, friends, biking, hiking, kayaking, and hopefully some traveling. Mr. Vincent, after the current school year will be 33 years, 2 years in Wapaka, 31 years here. He said, I don't carry any specific favorite memory, but will always proudly remember that both academics and students always came first in Amery. I will remember always that students wanted to excel and that they were good citizens, and a pleasure to work with. Good students' behaviors and efforts probably made me a better math teacher, because those student characteristics probably made me a bit more driven to serve them well. I am very proud to have been a math teacher in Amery for 31 years. In retirement, I most look forward to making my own schedule. Teaching has been a wonderful career for me, but the preparation and attention to detail required to do it is demanding. I will stay very busy, but I look forward to a different pace and a new daily routine. Exactly what that looks like is unclear to me, but it will probably depend upon the time of the year. So that's Mr. Vincent. And then Mr. Bielmeyer, he gave me lots of info, so I'll run through it in the best way I can. Started his career here at Amery, right out at UW-Oshkosh, and this is the only job he's had in 35 years, so he's been here the whole time. So 1 and 2 are the same answer, he says. Third, difficult to put in words, but my favorite memory, he said, was a former student, Jason Barney, graduated from here, and I went to his graduation celebration. His mom came running out of the house and gave me a huge hug and stated, if it wasn't for you and all that you have done, all that you do at the high school, my son would never have gotten his diploma from Amery High School. She followed up by saying, I can never thank you enough. Still brings tears to his eyes to this day. Jason's now a certified plumber and doing very well. We are still close and have regular contact. I also had the privilege to work with outstanding colleagues, the best teachers in the state of Wisconsin. Started a variety of new classes, including contemporary history classes, weight training, advanced weight training, survival skills. Those classes became very popular and very worthwhile and meaningful to students and to myself. Cherish the coaching memories that I have had, not so much of the practices in the games or the wins or the losses, but the idea of how much the sport that meant to these young people. I will always be fond of the memories of the high school ice fishing team and the high school trap shooting team over the last 7 years. I was very proud to be part of those 2 clubs. Lastly, I think that my best memories are the relationships that I have created over the years with former students. There is not a better feeling in the world than when a former student stops over to our house just to say hello, or when you are in someplace in public and they come over and say hi, and we begin to reminisce about their time at AHS. Fourth, what am I looking forward to? I am very much looking forward to spending a great deal of time with my family, new grandchild as of last week, and being able to spoil him or her to no end. I am also looking forward to spending as much time in the woods, hunting, and on the water, fishing with my brothers. I am also looking forward to doing a great deal of traveling with my wife and family. I'm looking forward to not getting up at 3:45 each day to go to work and to work out. I would like to do that on my own time from now on. And from September through May, I'm looking forward to doing whatever I want. So those are the 3 retirees.
Thank you.
Congratulations and thank you for all your service.
What are yours?
Yeah, that's a pretty big group to replace there.
Yeah, that's over 100 years with all 3 together.
Yeah.
That's a long time.
Wow. That's amazing.
We'll all definitely be missed. My kids have all had every single one of these teachers, and lots of memories, lots of good times on the football field with Mr. Bielmeyer, and lots of lunch duty with Mr. Vincent, and so, boy, we're gonna miss you guys, but enjoy the retirement.
Well, I don't believe there's any reason to go back into closed session.
I'll move to accept the personnel action.
I thought we already did that.
We did that.
Did we?
did that.
Okay. I lost track there with the reading, so, yeah.
I'll
So,
move we close, adjourn.
is there a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, roll call, Aaron?
Yes.
Shar?
Yep.
Dale?
Yes.
Keith?
Yep.
All right. We are adjourned.
Thank you.